The Rhine River rises high in the Swiss Alps in the canton of Graubünden. It then runs all the way to the North Sea, splitting Europe pretty much in half. The second longest river in Europe, only the Danube is longer. The Rhine has some formidable terrain to cross. Kilometre zero is traditionally marked as the old bridge at Constance. At the end of the Rhine is marked at the Hook of Holland, just on the other side of Rotterdam, at 1,036 kilometres from its source, as measured in Rhine kilometre, as they're called. The Rhine emerges from Lake Constance as the High Rhine, flowing generally westwards, passing over the falls at Schaffhausen, the largest falls in Europe. Here it forms part of the Swiss-German frontier, passing the Swiss city of Basel. After Basel, the river flows north as the Upper Rhine, forming the boundary now between Baden-Württemberg in Germany and Alsace in France. Now we're entering the Middle Rhine, the romantic Rhine, the Rhine of castles like Marksburg or Pfalzgrafenstein, before finally entering onto the last part of the journey, the Niederrhein, the Lower Rhine, as it crosses into the Netherlands. Here, it can get quite busy. "2,000 years ago, the Rhine was a political frontier as well as a geographical one. This is the reconstructed Roman fort at Salzburg, marking the start of the Limes Germanicus, the German defences that separated the left bank of the Rhine and the great Roman cities from the right bank and the German tribes beyond. This is the Black Gate at Trier. For the Romans, it wasn't just a simple linear defence along the Rhine that protected them from the Germanic tribes in the dense, murky forests beyond. It was the rivers behind the Rhine, the Main, the Moselle. Here, for example, at Roman cities like Heidelberg, were secondary defensive systems, all built with one aim: to protect the forward limes along the Rhine. It's been over 1,600 years since Roman legions stood on this great defensive line across Europe, but its legacy is still there. Its legacy exists in wine, in food. South of the line, for example, it's the wine drinkers of France, of Portugal, of Spain. North of it, they're beer drinkers. This is still the same as it was 2,000 years ago when the Roman legions stood here. Religion follows the same line very broadly. North of the line tend to be Protestant, south of it tend to be Catholic. The real difference, though, is in the languages. North of where the legions stood, that's still the Germanic languages, German itself, Dutch, English. To the south of the line, those are the languages descended from the Romance Latin dialect. So you have Portuguese, you have Spanish, you have Italian, you have French. Legacy is still there, 1,600 years later. Long defended after the Romans left, the wars now became geographical in nature. The cities walled to defend themselves, or they became religious in nature. This is Martin Luther, of course, and the start of the 30 Years' War that would tear Germany apart. All the wars would become dynastic in nature. This is the Battle of Rocroi and the Habsburgs against the Valois. Or the wars would follow the ambitions of one man. This is Napoleon crossing the Rhine on his way into Russia. After German unification in 1870, the invasions would go the other way. The French would build an enormous defensive line, partly along the Rhine, to stop the Germans. By 1944, it was time to cross the Rhine going the other way, and this time it was to end a Great War. This is now early 1945, and the Americans are about to capture a bridge at Remagen across the Rhine, which will take them into the heart of Nazi Germany and hopefully end the war. As the Allies force their way across the Rhine, and with the Russians advancing from the east towards Berlin, the devastation across Germany will be almost total. The Rhineland will suffer dramatically. It will take generations to recover from the bombardments. However, by 1945, with Adolf Hitler dead and the war finally over, Germany can start to look towards reconstruction. This is a statue of Father Rhine. If you're lucky, he'll protect you as you're sailing along the middle part of the Rhine Valley, along the romantic Rhine past its castles. If you're very lucky, he'll even protect you as you sail through the narrows of the Lorelei Gorge, famous for its perils for mariners in the past. If you're exceptionally lucky and crossing over to the Danube via the Main, he may even protect you here. It seems apt then to finish with that busy little city on the Rhine, Bonn, itself a Roman legionary fortress in origin, and its most famous son, Ludwig van Beethoven. Ludwig's father, Johann, would have heard stories as a boy of Louis XIV crossing the Rhine and the damage that French armies did. Ludwig himself, from the safety of the imperial court in Vienna, saw Europe burn as Napoleon waged his wars of conquest. Who better then to write the symphony, his ninth, that would become Europe's anthem? So whether you are travelling from the Deutsche Eck, the German corner where the Rhine meets the Moselle, heading towards the Lorelei perhaps, or some of the castles along the romantic Rhine, there's so much to see in this part of Germany. Don't forget, it's not just the castles here. This is Boppard and its famous bend in the river. The Rhine pretty much has it all.